Now, the main event, Randy Orton versus Jinder Mahal for the WWE Championship match. The WWE title that has such great history of champions. And what the fuck?
Yeah.
Jinder Mahal.
You understand, Jinder Mahal and that lineage includes people like David Arquette and Vince Russo and Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Not the WWE Championship.
Yes, because the WCW title is folded into that. It is part of the lineage. So congratulations.
No. They dropped the world title.
No, it's part of the unification, remember? The United...
No.
The unified championship.
I do not count that bullshit.
I know you don't, but if you look at the lineage, that is true.
No.
And two of those are WCW storylines, but one of them is from Vince when he put the belt on himself.
So the betting odds, I am done with betting odds. I stopped at the last pay-per-view of looking at what the up-to-date betting odds.
Like the boys found a way to make some side income.
Saturday or Sunday, but when it is the main topic, I go to a website and it shows the main topic, Jinder Mahal now favored to win. I'm like, oh, it's okay. I wasn't pissed. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, it means he'll win by DQ. Doesn't mean he'll win the title. Like, okay, they're going to prolong the feud longer than I thought. But then after Kevin Owens and AJ Styles ended in a count-out, I'm like, they're not having two title matches in a disqualification or count-out with non-clean finishes. So I'm like, fuck. Mahal's going to be our champion at the end of the night. And I guess I didn't know this, but Rich let me know that Randy and Mahal are actually buddies backstage.
Sounds like Randy's an advocate for him.
Yeah, and I didn't know that.
And has been since his original run.
So Orton did the job and let Mahal win. And I know everyone on the internet.
Randy looks strong, taking on three guys basically. Those two table spots.
He killed two guys,
and that was Remember how much I personally dislike Randy Orton as a person, not just a performer, because I do think he's a lazy performer too, but he is stable. He comes in, he does what he's required to do, which is nice. He does care about certain things that are important to the foundation of the business.
That's important to him.
He also is a guy that kind of rests on his laurels because he's got the backing of the company, so he doesn't have to try, and he'll still make money and he'll still be popular. So that's a personal gripe I have with him. And I was bringing this up because he had his whole thing with Rip Rogers and Bubba Ray and Will Ospreay this week on Twitter. I think he makes a good point. So does Will. They both had things, and I did think that it was very clever. I even told you when he ended his with ... headlock. I thought that was clever as hell. I gave him a big clap in my office when I read that. But he does look strong the way that he did that, but that was a dangerous as fuck spot, and we even saw the funny gif of
Randy Orton's face afterwards, after he kills someone.
He fucked up, and he did that spot twice. The first one was bad enough. The second one, I would have gone over and made sure the guy could still walk too.
He did, yeah. They owned he made that little face and pretended, oh, it's my arm that hurts.
He was so shocked, and then he was like, oh shit, I gotta sell this. Oh
yeah,
no.
And then afterwards, he actually goes up and he checks on him, make sure he's okay, but then he throws him in the ring, but gives enough.
It was bad.
What are their names? The two guys?
The Singh brothers is what they're called, but
the Singh brothers, whoever they are.
I apologize, I don't know their legit names, but they're Daivari younger brothers.
But Jinder Mahal is the new WWE champion. This goes back to Breezango, as in jobbers. Again, nothing against the actual talent, but how they've been booked as non-credible people, and you just throw them in a #1 contenders match and they win, does not create credibility.
Okay.
I don't give a shit.
I agree with your point. I don't want them to book that way either, just so we're clear. We do agree with that. But here's where the difference comes in. The way that Seth Rollins has been booked since he came back, other than the win at WrestleMania against Hunter.
Against your boy.
He has pretty much been shown to be a jobber the way that they presented him since he returned. He has not had a series of wins. He had to change his character from heel to face, which means he's constantly chasing the evil empire kind of storyline between his whole stuff with Hunter and Stephanie and the Authority, and also his feud with Samoa Joe and all that kind of stuff. He hasn't had definitive wins, and yet every time he was a #1 contender, we didn't go, well, what has he done? And he had been a champion before that.
Yeah, he has past history that
but when he came
proves
back,
what he can do.
He was on a decisive losing victory. And remember, when he was champion, he had the authority and their cronies helping him maintain his championship and
He was a
win
heel.
that championship. Yes, but you never thought that he was a fake champion when Kane helped him win the belt. You never thought he was a fake champion when Noble and Mercury helped him maintain the championship. So when he comes back and he doesn't have the storyline machine backing him up, you took him as a credible threat then when you knew that he was a cowardly heel that needed outside interference to win and maintain victories.
But when he came back, he beat Roman Reigns clean at Money in the Bank last year.
Okay. But then if he goes on to lose a bunch of matches, but then he finally wins against Triple H, didn't you go into the Triple H match? We knew what the story payoff.
I thought Triple H was going to win,
but he was losing the whole. But because they had shown Seth as a born loser, now they were writing him as a loser. He couldn't get a win. They were doing that. Yet if he beats Triple H and now he's one of the guys that's in contention for the #1 contendership.
Are you comparing this to Mahal?
Yes,
I'm not sure.
Because I'm saying that the jobber thing, the only difference between you thinking Jinder is a jobber and Seth Rollins is a jobber is that Seth has had success at one point. This is Jinder's first success. If Jinder had been a champion but it was 6 years ago, would you have the same anger over him being the #1 contender and now the champion?
Well, it's completely different. That's not how he's been booked.
No, but if it had been, and that's my point.
But that's apples. That doesn't make any sense. If they would have booked him differently in the last 6 years, my feelings would be different.
But Seth was written as a victor, but he was a victor that didn't do it under his own power. Then when he was doing his own power, he was at least 50-50 at best. Would you consider that a strong contender for the unstoppable beast?
But when he joined WWE my first time, I don't watch NXT. When I first saw him was The Shield, and The Shield was incredible. The Shield didn't come in and just lose.
No, that was a 3-man. That was you needed help.
But Seth Rollins was my favorite out of the 3, and he was incredible. He was athletic.
I'm not doubting any of that stuff.
But he didn't come in losing every single match. He came in as a badass already as a Shield winning.
He had backup because remember they were heels that were interfering. It was 3 on whoever they were facing. Sometimes it was 3 on 3, but many times it was 3 on 1 or 3 on 2. So of course they had the numbers game.
You can't compare the two. It's completely different. No, it's not valid. The logic is not valid. Comparing the two, I don't understand.
So my point is if you tell a story where a guy can't get a win for 6 months and then he does out of nowhere, that's the same story. The only difference is that in your mind, you're not looking at the last 6 months. You're taking the original run, and Jinder got fired, and then Jinder got brought back, and he's gone through how many different character changes. You're taking a 6-year thing compared to Seth Rollins in 6 months. And I don't think that that's a fair estimation because if you look at the actual character beats of how Seth Rollins was victorious previously as a heel, when he either as a face had the backup of his 2 boys in the Shield, or he turned on them and had the backing of the Authority to sway things in his favor. He had been a champion but had never gotten it done on his own, or hadn't consistently got it done on his own.
Until Roman Reigns.
Again, the reason why you had to bring that up is because it is a rare exception. That's the whole point. A year from now, if you continue this winning ways, if Jinder continues knocking people down, I don't think that's where they're going, but if they did, a year from now, then you'll call back to, and then he showed what he could really do when he beat Randy, because that's how you've changed the stories. You took him from he finally found his niche. My point is, this could be him finding his niche. In your mind, having the belt was finding your niche for Seth Rollins, but I'm saying when you look at what he was able to do, he needed help to get that niche in the first place.
Rollins?
In story, yes.
Okay.
So to me, that's the same storyline that they're doing now, but he's been there for a while and now has put on other matches and has switched back to face. So you're seeing it through a biased perspective and not seeing it's the same story.
Is this how you feel, or are you playing devil's advocate?
I believe it's the same thing. I get why you think he's a jobber, but my point is if it's not against what the performer's personal possibilities are for their career advancement, it's just the writing. I'm telling you, the writing has been sloppy for almost every character on the show, and if you go back and actually look at wins and losses and trends of character arcs, you will see that we like to think that it's the hero has adversity and eventually they overcome, and that's the whole arc. That's not the arc. The arc is this. And it's based on whatever the needs are. Sometimes it's injury, wellness violations, You got a celebrity coming in. You got a part-timer that you unexpectedly had some success with.
You're welcome, Dean Ambrose.
Exactly. And again, Dean Ambrose being the WWE champion, that kind of came out of nowhere because they were booking him as a loser. He was a loser for months. And then all of a sudden, they get him in there. He wins Money in the Bank. And then that led to he was the champion. That
they snuck him in the ring somehow that we saw at Money in the Bank. We were at that pay-per-view. We were at that pay-per-view before the main event. There's a mob of like 20 people coming in, chilling right by the ring.
Crew, they were making sure everything was secure. It was a very important match. They wanted to make sure everything went well because you would hate if one of those ring ropes...
Hey, look, Dean Ambrose just snuck under the ring.
Listen, we've seen some of the activity in that ring can cause it to break down and collapse. They were probably just securing it just in case. You would hate the show to be spoiled by something so bad.
All right, so you do believe that's how they're booking Mahal?
I get why you do that, but I'm thinking that you're... not seeing it. You need to take one further step back. You're already seeing it from one, but you need to take one further step back and go, the only reason why in your mind you think that he didn't have potential is because you've been fed this he's a jobber storyline from creative's lack of creativity.
But that's what the wrestling business is from creative, and that's what they created for the universe.
Okay, so we're having different symptoms of the same problem, though.
Which is what we always do.
Is my whole thing is that creative has kind of... They don't know how to tell the story. They're treading water. And so when they do pull the trigger on something, it either feels like, oh, God, finally, or where the fuck did that come from? And to me, it's one of those, oh, God, finally. That's why I brought up the Randy thing with you, is that Randy has been advocating this guy needs to get pushed because he's got the skills, he's got the charisma, he's got the ability on the mic. And now that he's come back, he's got the look, too. They were trying to push that. And to you, it's not that. But then when they do things like the Festival of Friendship, and we go, oh, finally KO turned on Jericho.
We knew that was happening. That was the story.
We had called on that forever. But it's the same symptom of the same problem of this treading water kind of booking.
I'm okay with pushing Mahal. I'm okay with that. I'm not okay.
You want him to go through and he becomes the Intercontinental or the US champion and stuff
and
like
build
that.
him and not automatically I lose for 6 again.
How many times did Brock Lesnar win the US title?
But with the research, again, I read this, don't know if it's valid, that someone said Mahal has one pay-per-view victory in his career. One pay-per-view victory in his career before a WWE championship match. Again, that should not happen. I do not give a shit what the creative and the story is.
You've never seen in a playoff situation where the bottom seed but had made the playoffs, where they shouldn't be there, they somehow beat the number 1 seed and now they eventually get to the championship game. Doesn't mean that they win the entire championship, but the bottom seed gets into the championship game. You've never seen that out of nowhere. You have a Cinderella story. That's the thinking behind this. I don't agree with it. I don't think it's good storytelling. I get why it's off-putting to you. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying...
Go on the other side.
That you shouldn't be shocked at this, because if you really think about it, your analytics don't matter because they remember what they want to when they want to. If you bring up these things, like your slow build, well, when I want to introduce somebody and all of a sudden I have him win on his first night, I will. When Paige came in, they had her win the Divas title on her first night.
And I will take that comment back, as in the Giant against Hulk Hogan on his first match wins the WCW title. But again, the Giant is different than Mahal.
No, and that's why I just mentioned Paige, though. Paige and AJ are the same kind of physique, so you don't have the dominating monster that came in out of nowhere. You had the unexpected opponent that you didn't take them seriously, and they got lucky on one night, and they did that. And then they had AJ off TV for a month or two. When she came back, she won her title back. But they did make Paige that night. That's the story they think they're telling. I don't think that that's good storytelling. I agree with you completely on that. But that is what they think they're doing. They think that it's working.
I'm okay with it because that is different. That's the first time they've ever seen this person. Well, we have how many years of seeing Mahal constantly lose, only winning once on pay-per-view.
So, and here's the devil's advocate. This isn't mine, but what if their story is, yes, and you saw him as the pudgy 3MB, and he has been trying to beat that mold, and he has not gotten the opportunities, despite whatever it took to get in his current physical condition. It is very impressive. And he has been he's been trying to overcome the stigma that he has in the fans and possibly in the storyline authorities figures of, oh yeah, you're the 3MB guy. You're the least qualified of the guys from that crappy throwaway put together triple tag team. So he's been trying to do that, and then all of a sudden he finally gets there and he embraces his Indian heritage, and he brings in the Bollywood boys, the Singh brothers, and now he's got the right tools to finally get his own trigger pulled and win the belt. What if I'm telling you, that's what they think they're doing. I think they're doing it sloppily. I don't think that it's necessary, that there are better ways of telling a story. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. But they think that's what they're doing, is that they're having you do the math, but they're showing you A plus B equals C. You just had to figure out what A and B equal. That's all they're doing. But they've already given you the equation and the answer. You just need to do the backwards math. That's all that they're doing.
I have no idea what the fuck they're doing.
A lot of us have that problem with them, but I'm telling you, they think that they're telling you that story, that he finally found the route to success, and it was in spite of everybody constantly saying, oh, Jinder Mahal, don't take him seriously, he'd never be champion. And tonight was him, and his promos, have they not been, I'm going to show all of you that I am the Maharaja, and I am worthy of being your WWE champion. That is exactly what he's been doing for the last month, has been saying that, is you're not taking me seriously.
His promos have been terrible.
They have. Again,
so I don't take him serious because they come out terribly.
Again, I'm not arguing that, but that is the story they're telling you. That is the point of their story. It's not a good story. It's not an entertaining one, and it seems like they could have done better things and should have approached it a different way. But they are not. They are just trying to tell you a knock-knock joke. And you're like, no, I wanted a Louis C.K. routine. And you're like, no, knock-knock, who's there? Jinder Mahal is the WWE champion. And you go, that's not funny. And you're like, well, that's what I got for you. You're expecting to have Shakespeare or whatever, and you're not going to get it.
It's the land of opportunity.
This is like an industry that is a fart joke. That's all it is. And I'm a huge fan.
It's the land of opportunity.
Eventually I get tired of their stink and I start watching something else.
Land of opportunity, Shane McMahon said, and Breezango and Mahal.
Does that not help that marketing, though? Breezango was #1 contenders, and Jinder fucking Mahal is the WWE champion. Who saw that coming? That is advancing that storyline, too. They think that they're geniuses. They think they're firing on all cylinders right now.
I'll be eating my words 2 years from now when Sami Zayn is world champion.
So let's be honest, though. Was that not the most active, other than KO and AJ? And I think there are some times where they were cheering and booing in the Randy and Jinder match that were the highlights of the night from the crowd. They were getting the most reaction. And we talked, it's cheap heat, but it's effective heat.
The crowd was into the match. And there's actual chances, let's go Jinder. Jinder sucks. Yep. And the crowd was excited when, before the bell even rung, Randy Orton started to beat the shit out of Mahal, throwing him around, and they were cheering for it.
Yep.
Because I think they were terrified that Mahal was going to win. And just seeing everyone's faces when Mahal was the champion. How long of a title reign do you think he'll have?
Not long. He'll drop it by the end of SummerSlam, if not before.
He better not be champion by SummerSlam.
No, we discussed this. Is if you do the math, if we get where he drops it at Money in the Bank, we will have had 6 title changes in 6 months. That's ridiculous. That's part of why SmackDown is struggling right now. There's not consistency. There's not good storytelling. You are absolutely right with that. They have lost a step from where they were. They have forgotten some of the things that we cared about, which is why they were becoming that. That's part of why I was advocating. I told them watch the TakeOver special, especially the UK Championship match and how they tell the story of the Tag Team Championship, because that is so well done from how production. I'm not going to give it away. How production handles that, how it's told by the in-ring work, the announce team, the way all of that stuff is done in both of those matches. That's what good high caliber wrestling should be, and it was stuff that they were taking risks, so you get the high flying stuff, but when they did, it had an effect. When the pinfall happens in the UK Championship match, it happens because of a high spot that goes awry, and they basically go, yeah, when you take high risk, there is high reward, but there's also high risk, and it didn't pay off in this time, and they lose the match because they fucked up, and it was well executed. That story was well told. It was all in there. Same with the tag title match. And especially the way that they ended the show. That was a meaningful cap on an 18-month story. And that's what I need. That's what SmackDown was doing after the brand extension.
I've really enjoyed SmackDown.
And since the Rumble, when they had to derail everything to build towards WrestleMania, I think they've lost a step. And I don't think they've regained their footing.
And losing Miz and Bray Wyatt hurt.
Huge things.
Because Miz was on a roll, and he still is on a roll on Raw, which is good to see, but he was lighting it up.
But what is he doing right now? He's doing his SmackDown routine with Dean. They put him in, they just continued that feud on another show.
They had a great...
You could have taken that over NXT and done the same exact thing that they did last week on Raw. It didn't matter.
And that's where you go, where everything is repetitive.
Yep.
And
they're treading water, which is why I was not trying to argue with you. I'm saying this is what they're doing, but that's where I wanted addressed. I need to be surprised. The reason why everybody remembers the Attitude Era so fondly is because you had feuds up and down the card. So many things matter. Not everything, but at least 2/3 of every match had something that was important that maybe it didn't happen the next show, but it would be one of those things that a month from now we go, oh, remember when that happened? Well, that's why this guy's finally, now he's in line. He's getting his revenge for that act 3 weeks ago. Kind of thing. You get to do those things. They're not doing that anymore. It's the same match night after night. We all know, other than the big four, what happens on the night after a pay-per-view? A repeat of whatever the main matches were, right?
The rematches.
Yep.
We'll get that on to who knows when Orton will get his rematch in mind.
I would assume you build that in Money in the Bank, and then you'll probably have Jinder drop it back.
And I'm okay with that because we'll probably have a rematch of Owen Styles, and then we'll have the Money in the Bank match.
Well, to finish our discussion about Jinder's viability, now that he is a WWE champion, if he drops the belt back, but he stays in contention where he's up there, or he starts going at the U.S. title, are you going to still think of him as only a jobber, or you go, well, he's a former world champion, he should be in the top 10 guys? Are you going to be okay with that?
Depends how he's booked. One thing I can compare Mahal to is probably JBL.
Okay.
Of how he became...
He was a jobber until the Acolytes, yeah.
Acolytes, but then he went singles, and then he beat, I believe, Eddie Guerrero for the championship, and he was the longest reigning SmackDown title, and he was a fucking joke. Even he had like 10-month long reign, and I didn't fucking believe in his fucking reign at all, even though how he was booked, who he was beating, how he was still a champion. Like, he's a fucking joke, and he loses 10 minutes to Cena
he's a
at
first
WrestleMania.
Hall of Famer too, right? He will be. Because that's the thing, is that you're trying to apply logic to something that is not based on logic. Just like the analytics, it's nice to go, oh yeah, well, Jinder's only had one pay-per-view win in his
So what should I base it off of?
Because that stuff doesn't matter. I'm telling you, you're looking for clues where clues don't exist. The only way you're going to have it is confirmation bias. So if he wins, you go, oh, he broke the streak of losing at pay-per-views, or he finally is on a pay-per-view. Or
Correct.
he loses, you go, well, why would he win? He loses at every pay-per-view. That's confirmation bias, because they don't have that memory. They go night by night and what they are planning to do on the next night. They don't think, with a few exceptions, they are not planning for SummerSlam as much as you think they are. They have some rough ideas, but remember...
They already have the Mania main event.
But that's only 2 guys. And how many mixed things are in here? And do you really think, with Brock Lesnar only showing up probably 10 more appearances in this year, that they're going to keep the Universal title on him? That means you've dropped the world title, but you created that whole title to build stars. Yeah. So
he'll
that
have
doesn't,
it.
That doesn't... He probably will. That seems like a waste to me. And based on analytics, that's not helpful for the show. Its ratings, the career advancement of the other performers, and yet we're both here telling you they're probably going to do that. So that's what I'm saying. Analytics don't matter unless they are trying to tell you a story, and when they're trying to convince you of the con, they go, and look at all the facts I have to back it up. But those facts are manufactured. It's all worked. Don't believe the hype. The only reason why they point out these numbers are to convince you of whatever they believe is going to happen.
Universal fact.
Exactly. We have the most views on social media of anybody else. Really? Then why is your stock price continuing to drop? Why are your ratings continuing to go down? Because everybody's so hot behind the brand? No, it's because you've got a turnkey operation at this point that continues to make money, and there's enough suckers that no matter how much I bitch and complain, I'm going to watch tomorrow night. So you don't have to worry. My subscription's on autopay. So unless you do something that's really bad and I call up and cancel or
cancel WWE subscription.
And remember,
network.
how many of those canceled WWE subscriptions actually get canceled? Some of them, yes. And again, we can bring out analytics and look at that stuff. But they come back. Our industry, we know, we're in hospitality. There's plenty of people who say, I will never come here again because of the way that I had this experience. And you see them 6 months later, if not sooner. It's an unfortunate thing. I don't do that to mock them. I'm the same way. I'm a guy that at one point in my life, I had such a bad reaction at Applebee's when I was in my early 20s. I will never go there ever again, yet I will go there whenever I have friends from work that want to, like, oh, let's go grab some steaks and some drinks and have a good Thursday night. And that's what we do. So,
how do we get to Applebee's?
Because I'm saying it's the same with the company. They don't have to worry because at the end of the day, as long as they have 1 million subscribers, they're going to be fine.
I'm intrigued. I guess we'll say that. I'll try to be positive about this. I'm intrigued
#HIV.
where they go with...
I derailed that. That was awesome.
I'm intrigued where they go with this story with Jinder Mahal and Orton.
Where do you think they'll go?
Right now, in my head, I'm still scratching my head about what I just saw, and I don't really want to think.
You knew going in. That was what the bookies were saying. That was the rumor, and the dirt sheets were all saying that...
I thought he was going to win by disqualification until an hour before the match when I say he's going to be champion.
That's true, yeah.
So I was going in like, that's fine, he's favored to win. Doesn't mean he's going to become champion.
But after the KO match...
But after the KO style, I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
Mahal's our
and
champion.
It was an accurate point, and it panned out, yeah.
So I was unprepared for this. I don't know. I'm just still... I'm lost for words. And trying to compare this to another time in history. I tried to with JBL and Eddie Guerrero. But another time where someone who was like a Mahal, a jobber, I don't give a shit, a jobber, within 1 month, wins a number one contenders and becomes champion within 1 month. I don't get it. Again, I guess I'm analyzing it too much.
The reason why I brought that, some of the stuff I brought up is, and again, I don't always agree with him, but Ryback makes some good points. When he came in, he was an unstoppable monster. He was like this generation's Brock Lesnar. He was undefeatable until he was defeatable, and then he became a jobber. That wasn't because his work rate had gone down. It was because the priority in the creative team in Vince's mind had dropped on him. They decided not to give him the momentum anymore, and they took it away. They made him into a jobber when at one point he was probably in at least the top 5, if not the top 3, as far as...
He was in the final 2 at the Rumble one year.
Exactly. And now he's a guy that works on the independents and probably will never come back, or if he does, it'll be a big shocker.
He's talked so much shit.
But he's not the first or the last guy that
will
do that. So
True.
My point, though, is that he was a guy that Roman Reigns push that Vince thinks that he's doing... He was a guy that they had kind of naturally stumbled into that, doing the big man push that Vince loves to do, because if a guy looks like he could beat me up if I was just passing him in the hallway, that's a guy that I'm threatened by. He should be at the top of the card. That's Vince's mentality.
Old school. Yeah.
So Ryback fits that mold until priorities changed. They're like, well, we got to push this, we got to do that, and they forgot about him. And then when they brought him back, they're like, well, we need somebody to get over, so let's feed him the monster. And then he shows that he defeated a monster. And then everybody was defeating the monster, and he never recovered from it. They made him into a jobber, and he was at one point, he should have been the world champion. We were all clamoring for it. And then they took it away.
CM Punk buried Ryback.
I don't think that CM Punk had that ability, according to CM Punk. If you take him at his word, then he didn't have the stroke where he could have gotten that done. And Ryback was still in the company after Punk left. So
no, but Ryback was on a high, and then he got in the title matches with CM Punk.
And I'm not, again, I do agree with both things and things that both sides of that have said. I do probably side more with Punk than I do with Ryback, but Ryback does have a point. I don't want to get into the pay thing, because that is kind of an arbitrary system, but that was his point of, we're only jobbers because you tell us the job, and that's our job. So we go out there and lose because you told me I had to. It's not because it's an actual competition and I don't have momentum because I lost a step and I don't know how to get back my smile. It's you told me to wipe that smile off my face, go out there and fall down so the guy can cover me. He's got a point. The reason why I'm not making as much in merchandise sales is because you took that opportunity from him. That's what he was saying. He's got a point. That's what Jinder is. You never gave Jinder the ball, and so when they finally do, you go, well, why'd you give him the ball? You never give him the ball before. The difference.
You start out with a smaller ball and keep giving him bigger balls.
But you don't have to. And that's their thinking. That's the fallacy. You were thinking you need to build up, but Sami Zayn
credibility.
But Sami Zayn is on that path you're explaining, and you're still saying I don't see him getting to that last rung. And
because of Vince McMahon.
Take Vince out of it. Do you think that if Triple H was in charge, that Sami Zayn is going to defeat Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship at any point? Not in the current program, but let's.
Brock Lesnar's having the title for the rest of his life.
No, that's not true.
He's going to retire as champion.
No.
Once his contract is up, he's going to get paid his $10 million for 15 appearances. Defend his title 4 times a year at the Big Four.
No, you get my point though. Is that Sami Zayn is on that slow burn route, and you're not taking him seriously. And then when they bring in these other guys and they push them really fast, you do believe them.
But in Sami Zayn, if they start building him up for 2 years, a year, 6 months.
Okay, how many times have you seen it? It doesn't happen as much now because we're not as gimmick heavy. But remember previous days where a guy would be a certain character, he'd go away for a few months and come back, and now he's somebody else.
Smash.
Exactly, or Tugboat turns into Typhoon and all that kind of stuff. And you
comes back as the Repo Man.
You're supposed to take them, in a different light because they're a different character. They don't do it where it's as obvious to the audience anymore because they don't do those gimmicks. But do they not reset characters all the time? And they basically go, don't worry about yesterday. That was then. He's refocused and now he's ready for this. And that's exactly what they did with Jinder. Is they basically said he couldn't make it click, but all of a sudden, boom, he found his niche, and now he's the champion.
But when have they done it to make him champion, though?
When have they, like in the history of things?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of examples.
CM Punk's a good example. CM Punk, they did not take seriously. They even gave him the championship, and they didn't push him. And it wasn't until he was getting ready to leave, and they did that whole story that was the pipe bomb, and that really resonated with the audience. And then they let him run with that. But even after that ran, when he came back, within 3 months, he was jobbing out to Kevin Nash. And he was supposed to job out to Hunter. And they continued that. And he was the champion for over a year. And he still ended up dropping the belt to a part-timer. Which I get why they did, but it was dumb. But that's what they did, and he's got a point. How many times during his over a year-long reign was he not at the top of the card? That somebody was in a beef that wasn't championship-related, was the last match of the night, and the champion was not. And he even opened a show once with the fucking WWE Championship. That's ridiculous.
Nope. But see, it didn't happen like Mahal. Again, Mahal lose all this time
a guy that even
in 1 year. He was in straight edge society, right? He was part of a group. He was well-known. He got some W's. He actually won on pay-per-view. Won on pay-per-view. But I'm just trying to think of other examples of
where a guy has been nothing and then was the champion
within a month's time.
I get your point, but I'm telling you, you think of it differently than they do, and that's the problem. And I'm not. Just so you know, I don't think you're wrong, but that is their mentality.
And this is why, for the last 8 years, how we get in on this, where we actually make points that we don't agree with, and we just go around in circles. That's why I love him so much. I love the man.
No, I'm not doing it to be a dick.
No, I don't do it. I don't do it to be a dick either. I do the same thing. We do the same. We've been doing this for 8 years, just going around in circles.
I'd toast you, but you don't drink, so don't worry. I'll drink it up for both of us.
Hopefully, it was entertaining enough to hear again.
Nobody's watching this.
Trying to click off. See the end. Just still trying to make sense of all this. I guess I'm thinking too hard about it. But what are your final thoughts of the night?
I'm gonna say I even texted you this. I thought it was a B-. I expected a B-. They delivered a B-. There was nothing that really offended me or shocked me, good or bad. But in the current climate, bad is usually when you go in and you're like, they could do so much, and then they drop the ball or they offend you. They were consistent tonight. There was nothing that was groundbreaking. It was like I said, it was treading water. It was another show. This could have been another episode of SmackDown.
No, and they needed the Mahal win because if Randy Orton would have won, what happened? What was so noteworthy?
You want to talk? You want to talk about how his jobber status is? Would that not have completely killed his character? He finally gets a shot at the title and he doesn't win it. If Randy had beat up the Singh brothers, and fucking pinned Jinder clean, would you ever take Jinder as a contender ever again?
I still don't take him
exactly.
Seriously.
So
even if he's champion right now, I don't take him serious.
So if he had lost, imagine how much real estate he would have in your mind. If he has 0 now, he'd be even worse. He'd be radioactive right now, where you'd have to fire him because there's no. That's why he ended up in 3MB, is because they went so wrong. They didn't play it right, and they didn't know what to do with him. The same with Drew Galloway. The same with Heath Slater. And I'm not saying that those guys should have been there, but Drew Galloway has gone out, and when he was under control of his own destiny, he has made a name for himself all over the world. He has shown his work rate, his characters, his promos are spot on, and now he's back in NXT. But for a time, we're like, yeah, you should be part of this comedy trio. So they threw them together, and they were a nothing. And let's be honest, that's what the New Day was too. It just ended up going well for them. But when they were put together, was that not supposed to be a militant black group? And then they turned it into something else? But wasn't it supposed to be like the Nation of Domination, but watered down?
Well, it started out bad, and they started to turn on them.
Exactly. And finally Xavier was probably... I'm sure Austin was sitting there thinking, oh, shit, this is not going well. Kofi's been there long enough to see when you have momentum and then they completely back off on that momentum, you know that means you're not Jamaican anymore. So he was like, I got to do this. And Big E had gone through how many resets? So they put it together, and now they're one of the biggest things in the company.
All right, so we'll see. Jinder Mahal, he's given the torch. We'll see.
I don't think Cheap Beat's the way to get there. Would be my final word on that.
Yeah, we'll see what he does with this, with his title reign. And I'm interested to see the SmackDown viewership. It's been going down each week. We'll see if it just makes a huge drop.
What do you predict for Tuesday? Are you thinking it's going to be up or down or consistent?
I think it's going to be consistent, because I think there's going to be a even out, as in there's a lot of people like, fuck SmackDown, I'm not going to watch it. But then people are going to like, I'm interested and intrigued, and they are going to watch it that haven't been watching it. So I think they're going to balance each other out, but they're still hit the numbers and they keep declining. Who knows what the solution is? If we'll get into that.
I'm a know-it-all.
Yeah, he has the answers for everything. B- show is what which is absolutely true. This afternoon, or was it last night? Last night, Sammy, it's going to be a B- show. You got Nakamura, got Styles, Owens, the match. I'm intrigued. I'll watch on Tuesday. We'll see where they go. If he is champion by SummerSlam, that's my cutoff point. He better not fucking be champion.
You'll still watch SmackDown
by Summer. I'll still watch it, but I'll still be right here scratching my head. What the fuck is going on? But that is our reactions to the Backlash pay-per-view and whatever the fuck happened in that title match. Again, Rich will be explaining to me for the next year of the reasoning and what the writers are doing. Again, since an hour and 15 minutes was not enough to explain to me. Delete. We're going to delete it. We're going to delete this video. There we go. Thank you for watching. We'll be back in 2 weeks for Extreme Rules. We'll see if we have time to put up a preview show. But no matter what, we'll have our reactions to Extreme Rules. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching.